We have with us Ms. Shanti Menom. Shanti Menom is a principal founder of the Dean's Academy, who embodies the spirit of this institution with a chain of schools and colleges spread over East Bangalore. Her passion for education and vast teaching experience put her in a unique position to continually steer deans to the highest echelons of educational excellence. She is credited to work in some prestigious institutions in both Chennai and Hyderabad. She's also worked as coordinator at the CMR National Public School, Bangalore, and takes pride in setting up and heading Gopalan International School, Bangalore. Her administration, zest towards education, and her management skills are the key which enabled her to scale new heights. She is a university rank holder from Stella Maris College, Chennai, who acquired a degree in education after completing her graduation in English literature. She also holds a teaching and training diploma with distinction from the Cambridge University, UK, and a master's degree in education. Her talent in the field of dance is equally noteworthy. She is a trained Bharatanatyam and Mohiniyattam dancer. Shanti is also trained in Carnatic music and is a creative artist who gives life to tangible paintings and watercolors as well. On personal side, she is the daughter of the eminent Dr. E. Sridharan, the Metro Man of India, and wife of Mr. Hari Menon, co-founder CEO of BigBasket.com. Ms. Shanti is a passionate homemaker and the mother of 3 sons. It's an honor to have you here, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Priya, for that introduction.
Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning to all of you participants. It's a pleasure to be interacting with you once more. So gratitude to Teachathon for this opportunity. We will be exploring together designing our classroom. Designing. You think you are designers? Well, today, with the shift in a perspective, our roles as educators has to be reimagined and reconstructed. And therefore, we have become designers of our classroom transactions. Having set the context with that, my agenda for the next 25 minutes is that I will explain design thinking, what design thinking is, and then we will go on into designing our classrooms together. So what is design thinking? Design thinking is it's a little, I'm going into the technicality so that, we really immerse ourselves into this whole topic. And that's why I'm explaining what design thinking is all about. So design thinking is a 6-step process, which, involves observation, empathy, and placing the customer's need above all. Of course, this is the industrial explanation for design thinking, but in our context, who is our customer? Every student in our classroom is our customer. So design thinking values solutions over processes and creativity and innovation over traditional practices. The first step is to identify and define the problem, and in our case, the need of the student. Then you go on to step 2 of collecting data that is related to the student. What is the child's learning style? What is his intelligence? I mean, the multiple intelligences. What are his interests? What are his shortcomings? What are the areas of gray that the child works in? Now, having collected all of this data, you will analyze and you will discuss with colleagues as to brainstorm the next approach for this child's learning as your next step. Then you come to ideating, the ideating process, the creation of a prototype that can be replicated in different situations so that the plans will align to the child's need. Now, you will implement the plan. You will take feedback as you watch the plan, what you've executed, and then you will apply changes. Now the cycles continue as they review, reconstruct, re-implement in order to bring about a transformation in the student. We are thus creating learning experiences for every student and not just transacting curriculum. I ask you to hold on to that idea for a while. I use the term learning experiences because I believe that we should reflect upon how we, designers of the classroom, fit into the larger picture of education. The NEP which has drawn a roadmap for the country's future in education, mandates equity and inclusion as its larger vision. Every student, according to his need, is to be catered to. NEP postulates a multidisciplinary approach with no hard separation between subjects, which should yet bring out the unique abilities of every student in our classroom. We educators, therefore, have to design the delivery within our classrooms for focusing on the student's need, emphasizing conceptual learning through inquiry and by incorporating the 21st century skills, thus bringing about a transformation in every student so that he is future ready. A lot of work on our plates, right? Assessment is, of course, crucial for the efficacy of this experience that we have designed. So what do you think contributes to creating these experiences? Can I ask you participants to, on the chat box, put down what you think will lead to creating these experiences? Please chat on into that chat box. I thought we were having an interactive session. Come on, all of you. If we want to create learning experiences, what are we going to do? Yes, breaking away from traditional assessment. So assessment is one portion that we look at. Yes. Connecting with real life, absolutely. Activities, activity-based learning, wonderful, innovative methods of implementation, understanding the child's point of view. Good. Now I'm finding a whole lot of people writing in. Inquiry-based learning, using technology, making it challenging for the students, learning by doing. You know what? I think I'm done. My job is done. You seem to know exactly what we should be doing to design a learning experience for our students. Right? Thank you so much, all of you participants, and thank you for being proactive on that front. Okay, so we do have to have a curriculum. We have to focus on the lesson plan. We have to focus on the activities. We have to make a shift in the whole paradigm. We have to look at a holistic growth plan for your students. What about, have you thought of this? What about the class decor and conjuring up a class atmosphere, an ambience that will foster curiosity and engagement to learn? Yes, that too is essential. In the whole pedagogical process, this also has to be designed when you are going to be delivering that learning experience. So we are essentially creating experiences which facilitate children to explore, stay curious of their learning, analyze and apply their learning to their daily life. Many of you said that. And thereby for them to be staying engaged cognitively, socially, and emotionally as we effect this transformation. So the key words I'm looking at is transformation, and I'm looking at learning experiences. Okay. Now, as designers of a classroom, let's start at the very beginning. I talked about decor and I talked about atmosphere. So let's create an atmosphere. I would always recommend creating a wow element for the child every single day. It can be as simple as you rearrange the class seating before they arrive. You know, from the stage horizontal seating that we normally have in our classroom, which is facing the front, you can have group seating. You can have vertical rows where children are facing each other, or you can even have a horseshoe arrangement. And sometimes, think about it, just throw out all the desks and chairs in your classroom. The children would love sitting on the floor and studying. You're part of it. You're going to be sitting on the floor too on that day. Now, that can be a start to bringing that wow factor in the class. The child doesn't know what her classroom is going to look like each day. A wow can be also created if you install something that catches their eyes. So imagine when the child walks in and on the green board, there's a large quotation put up, right? Or say you've slung a dupatta on the fan. And this is a start to one of those classes in physics about air and, kind of speed and things like that. Or you can come and dress yourself, say as a fireman in a kindergarten class when you're going to be starting a lesson on community helpers. All of this will spark the interest and get the dialogue started. And thus, you have designed to kickstart learning. You think now decor and ambience is important? Now again, I also recommend that the class transaction should be designed for communication, interaction, and movement. So you have to have energizers. They always serve to keep the energy high. You want to do one with me now? Come along, you just do what, please follow what I am saying, okay? You want to put on your cameras if you don't mind? I don't mind your background. Whatever your background is, please put on your cameras, just so that we can interact, okay? You're going to be doing what I'm saying, all right? Clap your hands. You have to do it with me quickly. It's going to be fast. It's an energizer. Clap your hands, snap your fingers, tap your head, tap your chin, pull your cheek, pull your chin, pull your ears, pull your nose. Some of you have got, I can see Priyanka, etc. have got the right thing. I said, pull your nose, and I have done this, and many of you have done this. I said, follow what I say, and not, okay, so this is something that Dr. Karajagi always used to do in his class, in all the sessions. It is so exciting. Imagine the engagement. Thank you so much, all of you. Engagement that a child has with you when you have those energizers interspersed in your class. Now, also make a conscious effort to address each child with specific, individualized communication. How was your little puppy today? Did you get time to play basketball last evening? I mean, these kind of questions you can ask your children, or you can even ask a little child, oh, you look so cute in that ponytail. Every child waits for that personal connect with you. I don't have to tell you this, I'm sure you do it. But I'm just coming to tell you how important it is in a classroom. So creating that transformational experience in the classroom starts with having those meaningful and authentic relationships with your students, which is part of the whole experience of learning with you. Have opportunities for children to move around. Okay, so the whole idea of doing that energizer with you is that I know you've been sitting, attending sessions in all earnestness for the past more than an hour and a half. So it's so for the child too. So in a class, when you are possibly teaching plant parts, give the children a few minutes to rush out of the classroom to collect a few wild leaves, roots and fruits and things like that from the garden. Or say in a class of grade 8, you're going to be teaching them clauses, okay? Clauses in English. You can have certain children hold up cards which say main clause, subordinate clause, adjective clause, adverbial clause, noun clause, and say whatever else that you'd like to have highlighted. And you give them that opportunity to either raise this placard or to run up to the board and place it against that sentence that you have constructed on the board. Believe me, even the oldest of students enjoy this kind of break in their class sessions. The fun of it all adds to their learning experience, and this experience makes it inevitable that the learning happens. So there's a whole lot that I spoke about in terms of deco ambience that you will create in order to make sure that the learning experience is effective for the child. Okay, so now that comes down to, I'm going to go back to the more what we thought is only our job. That's the curricular plan. The curriculum revolves around 7 key aspects. All of you are familiar with it, but let me just go through it quickly. The first one being balance. It promotes equally intellectual, moral, social, aesthetic, creative, physical development, all of this in a student. So our curriculum should be balanced. The second being that the curriculum should be relevant to the context of the student. Of course, in a grade 2, in schools like ours, which is in the urban spaces, we can't have story sums constructed with 1,000 sheep because they really don't, connect to that. The next one is, of course, it has to be focused on building conceptual understanding because we're no longer in the era of rote learning, isn't it? The next one is, of course, coherence, making connections between subjects such that subjects do not appear to be existing in silos. So children need to understand that math exists in their daily life, or social studies is what builds, is what their present is all about, kind of thing. The fifth key aspect is of being vertically integrated by focusing on progression of a concept from grade to grade. So, my standing joke has always that germination is a topic that kindergartners learn, and they learn it even in 12th standard. But the fact is that there is a gradation there, right? The next one is, of course, being appropriate to a child's abilities. We know that you cannot introduce trigonometry in primary school the way it's done in the senior school. Similarly, you don't really need to explain the effects of a pandemic in a senior school class. They know what it is, right? So we have to make it appropriate to their age group. And finally, of course, it has to be rigorous. By keeping the challenge of it high, I saw that in the chat box, of keeping the challenge high. One of you had also ensured that today when we talk about different kinds of, cutting down the syllabus, etc., the aim is never to make it easy for a student. Life is about, working hard, and the term is, productive struggle. Unless they go through that, there is no real learning. So we will subject students to it through our curriculum. Now, all of this that I spoke about a curriculum structure is something that all of you is familiar with. And all of you, I'm sure, is incorporating it into the curriculum. But now, as a designer, you know that you can influence the pace of the learning, the levels of depth of learning, and the motivation of a learner by leveraging the tools of design to differentiate for each child and to reform the many aspects of learning process, right? So the word is that, I just go back to that. You are going to be working on the depth of learning. It could be different for every child in the class. The pace is certainly different for every child in the class. Everybody learns at a different pace, and everybody has his or her own learning style, and therefore, including the motivation, every child is not as motivated. So, for a student like me, math is never a motivational subject. I dread it. So then the teacher needs to exercise a lot more plans for a person like me in her classroom, right? Now, all that is what you're going to be thinking through. Now, let us pick up the aspect of balance in curriculum. Even as we cater to the interest of a child and the need of the child. So when we were transacting a topic or body parts in grade 1, grade 1 children need a lot of movement. They need to be engaged, especially on the online medium. It's a little difficult to transact a lot of topics. So what we did is we got the yoga teacher to do the lesson with a group of students. Okay, so you want to take a look at that slide that is up there. So while all right, so while the yoga teacher was doing this lesson on body parts with one group of children, another group of children was doing it with the dance teacher. So he took them through a few movements, and if you notice in that song, it says ears and nose and neck and things like that. Do you imagine the kind of excitement that the children had when they were taking this class? So not only were we ensuring conceptual learning with a dash of physical activity, but there was also aesthetic engagement for the children. And of course, there was that one group of children who would probably prefer to learn it straight from the textbook, and another group which would prefer to do it as drawings as they learn. But as a designer, you are unafraid to use music, theater, games, sketching, dancing, and play, all of this to increase creativity and engagement. And it can all happen in the same topic, and that's what I'm trying to say. So there's one group sitting and doing yoga, there's another group sitting and doing dancing with a dance teacher, and of course there's another group probably drawing it, and there's just one lot who just want to hear it as a learning, text kind of thing from you. Okay. In the end, it's all about understanding and focusing on the child's interest and the need. So here there's a lot of designing that you need to do. Now I'll go on to the other aspect of coherence that we spoke about. For students to achieve deeper learning, they must understand the value of lesson content, the value of the lesson content, and be able to connect to it to their own lives, to their future in terms of their careers, their educational pursuits, or also for their current interests, okay? So designing our lesson plan has to connect to subjects so that children see what they're learning in their daily life. We do a lot of grammar through story sessions in the primary grades especially. So pronouns can easily be done as a storytelling activity using puppets. And children love watching puppet shows, isn't it? But they learned not just the use of pronouns, they also got opportunities to communicate, interact, giving that socio-emotional angle a boost. Now that is something that we have to constantly be aware of, especially like I said, while we are on the online medium, socio-emotional skills are getting hugely beaten for most of our students. I'm sure all of you seeing it with your children as you interact with them. The only interaction is the screen. So when you create these kind of opportunities, they get to communicate with each other, they get to interact with you, they get to speak to, and actually discuss what is happening there. Just making sure that apart from conceptual learning, there's also that socio-emotional engagement. Sometimes we have to fine-tune our instructional approach and strategy to push, or rather to nudge those students who are stuck and are not progressing in the understanding of that concept. And here, design thinking is invaluable to develop a creative idea. I just have to share the really fun session students of grade 3 had at my school. This was an English class on procedural writing. Now, it sounds very lofty, right, for grade 3 to be writing something like procedural writing. What they had to do is write in steps by giving a sequence. It's like a direction to do a task. Okay, that's what procedural writing is all about. If you notice, a lot of my examples are based on English because I'm basically an English hand. I find it a little difficult to explain a bit of maths or any other subject. Science is a little easier, therefore. So children in grade 3 were supposed to do this task on procedural writing. They had to use transitional words like, next, and then you have to, these are kind of words that are called transitional words. In addition, up to which, these are words that they had to use. Now, grade 3, it's a little difficult for them to think sequentially in that kind of sequence, right? The lesson was then also connected to math. The concept of quantities was added on to this topic. And in addition to all of this, we also threw in the concept of countable and uncountable nouns. Okay, so imagine in this one lesson, the number of things the children are doing. So what did we have the children to do? We had the kids to write a recipe on how to bake a mug cake using measurements like quarter teaspoon of baking powder, half teaspoon of baking powder, quarter teaspoon of vanilla essence, 3 tablespoons of sugar. They not only wrote the recipe, they baked their mug cake, learned the concept of procedural writing using words like next you add sugar. In addition, put in some vanilla essence, okay? They understood abstract quantities. Now, grade 3 doesn't really understand things like a pinch of something or a quarter spoon. It's all new to them. And they learned countable and uncountable nouns. And then they've also got to eat the cake, So just look at the glee in this little baby's face. That is her recipe. She has written it there. And look at the happiness in her face as she's making that mug cake, right? So can you imagine how much learning happened as this whole learning experience was put together? It didn't come out of the blue, right? There had to be a lot of intense thinking through and designing for the teacher to come up with something like this. Only then, and since it was connected to maths and a lot of other concepts in English, it required a lot of design thinking to happen to put it into place. Now, since we are designing to bring about a transformation in students, we also have to offer a variety of ways to students to share and process information during a lesson. Like I talked about, the socio-emotional aspect. We need to fold in as many opportunities of learning through inquiry, through observation, through research, through group work, very consciously incorporating and designing to have 21st century skills inside. Okay, so we are looking at focusing on conceptual learning. Our goals are but 21st century skills, like I said, through group work, etc. More learning happens when children work together. Don't you agree with me? In teams, when they can collaborate, they can communicate, they can problem solve, they can think creatively, and they can produce solutions together. So we had a session in math where they were learning, ratio, where they had to actually create drawings. I wasn't able to put it into my presentation today. They had to create drawings while they blow it up from a small drawing kind of thing. So possibly an eye. They had to make the, how they do it in terms of drawing squares on it and then expanding it to a larger size. So they're learning the concept of ratio that way. There was another experience for children when they were learning symmetry. And I remember they were drawing rangoli all over the school, just doing, learning the concept of symmetry. Imagine when they're doing something like this. Imagine the amount of fellowship among them, the amount of planning that children will do, So when they have to create these kind of rangolis and things like that, the kind of skills that we are unobtrusively creating in the students. Now, all this is part of a teacher's design when she plans those kind of topics to be executed in the classroom. Don't you think? Now, flipped classrooms. I'm sure every one of you is doing it in your schools. But is assessment and peer assessment a part of this whole episode of flipped classrooms? Peer assessment allows children to hone listening skills, research skills, because they need to explore. Remember, when you're listening to somebody talking about a particular topic, they have to know something about the topic themselves. So they will have to explore on the net or in the library so that what they hear, they understand. They also have to hone skills of reasoning, in the metacognitive domain that we speak about. They should be able to analyze what the speaker is speaking about. All of this so that they can ask the right questions. Children love to ask questions, right? Especially when it's the peer, presentation and peer assessment. I've seen the robustness in the classroom, the kind of questions they come about, asking each other. But appropriate questions come only when they understand what is being presented and they're able to analyze what is being said there, isn't it? Now, it is up to the teacher, again, you, to design subtly how the questions are being weird. Give them those prompt words to ask the right questions. Again, you are designing even the questioning aspect of the children, right? Children also learn to look for conceptual learning, therefore, and not just, disseminating the kind of information that a presentation would entail. And so all of this needs to be designed by you. There is a lot of thought that goes in when a teacher creates these kind of activities. So you are broadening the learning of the student as well as making an impact on the conceptual learning. This whole process cultivates a critical skill of independent learning to learn, as we say, and we are setting them off on a journey of educating themselves, which is a critical skill that we as educators have to create in our students. Our students are complex little beings with varying learning needs, different levels of motivation. I already said this, diverse interests, and every lesson that we do is an experiment in engaging the student in the process of his learning, isn't it? Every lesson is an experiment. You go planned with something, and then you will have at least 10 children in the class who are not with you in the class. And therefore, this requires a lot of thought, a lot of planning from you, thinking through every child's need in the class, right? I'll just give an instance of a little child in LKG while we were doing assessments of a concept that we were teaching them, basically based on phonics. he just refused to touch that worksheet that we were giving out. So finally, what the teacher did is she created a worksheet which had dinosaurs in it. And then we discovered that anything with dinosaurs worked with this little fellow. So we were able to, get him to progress with us in the class using those dinosaurs. The rest of the class had something else. So as a designer of that class learning, we did try something new, that is the use of dinosaurs, and then it worked with that child. And then when it worked with that child, from that experience, we realized that we can replicate the experience for other students. So we found the little girls in the class preferred flowers in their worksheet or preferred little dolls in their worksheet. So as the designer of the assessment or the work in the class, you are working with the experience of what really worked for me and what can be replicated, right? As an educator who practices design thinking, we are not only approaching our work with a lot more empathy for our students' needs, but we are also assessing the same learning objective in different formats to suit the child, right? So, like I said, the worksheet could have flowers, it could have dolls, it could have dinosaurs, but the learning objective is the same. Assessments, as we are aware, are designed to diagnose and better every student's learning, to guide our instructional transactions, therefore, to enable us to assess whether our goal has been achieved. So assessments don't ever have to be a question paper turned out in a classroom. Assessments can be in different formats. I always believe, it makes it so much less daunting for a student when assessments are in different formats. It can be in the form of a quiz, it can be in the form of a presentation, it can be in the form of a presentation as a skit, right? Or as a dance, or as a debate that you can have in class. What about open textbook assessments? No, they look very simple, but that's a great way of getting those very reluctant children who hate reading the textbook or reading the text that you have to open their textbook, and that's a good way of doing assessment. So the child will think, oh, it's very easy. I've got the textbook in front of me, but unless he knows the textbook, he's not going to be able to answer that, get through that assessment. So in the end, what is our goal? Our goal is to make sure that every child has attained our learning objective. We are not looking at a perfect answer. Every child's mode of style of working is different. Answers will be varied. Now that is again something that you would put into your design, that you're expecting different kinds of answers. And you have to, I know most of us work with a standard answer key. That's something I just can't stand. I don't understand how you can have a standard answer key because no individual is identical. How can everybody expect to be writing the same thing that is in your answer key, right? So let's not look for this perfect answer. It can be different for every child. The learning objective, has the child understood what we were trying to teach or what was being transacted in classes? That's all we want him to look at. Assessment can also happen outdoors. Imagine the engagement of a student who wants to make an ace performance if he knows that he's going to find the answer of a question on speed, distance, time by running a race. Okay, the faster he gets there, and he gets the answer. So this is the distance you've got to run, and this is the speed at which you will run. What's the time you're going to take, kind of thing. The child will be so excited to do that. But of course, or imagine if the child has to answer a question on force in physics using skittles. So you've given him a ball. What is the kind of force that you need to put, throw the ball to put all of the 9 skittles down? They would just enjoy their learning, isn't it? So they learn the whole concept of force so much better when you've done it in the form of a game for them. And you've done it as an assessment. He's understood it, that if he threw the ball slowly, only 1 skittle will fall. If you threw it with a certain amount of full force, he just possibly misses the whole thing. But if he does it with a controlled force, all of the 9 skittles will fall down together. Now that's important learning for the child. Of course, the assessment cycle also includes the designing of individual feedback. What is today termed, we call it feed forward today, so that the learning is enhanced. Gone are the days when we used to just write good in an answer sheet, or you would just rewrite. We don't do that anymore. You will read, say rewrite the question with adding on this point. That's the way we give the feed forward today. That's very important. So it is time consuming. but it's important for your students' learning. Okay? Now, as a designer, you can influence the mode of learning, the pace of learning, and the motivation of the learning by leveraging, like I said, the tools of design to reform the aspects of learning process, the different aspects of learning process, okay? You are designing differentiation, which can go beyond content delivery to adjusting pace, format, all of this for the child. Therefore, you are transitioning, like I said, from content delivery into coaching and facilitation. As an educator, you are a designer using empathy and student-centered approach to reach out to different students, to support active learning and to increase positive learning outcomes. So the key words are active learning. The child is engaged in his learning, and it is a positive learning outcome. It's not a reluctance to learn. Oh, I'm not learning it because my teacher asked me to learn, but I'm enjoying the learning. And therefore, you're designing those kind of experiences for the child. When we intentionally design the experience of a lesson, we not just deliver the content by designing every aspect of the transaction, from decor to ambience to classroom interactions to student activity to assessment to feedback. I mean, I've gone through all of it. We amplify the impact of our teaching and create a classroom atmosphere that is built on the foundation of empathy and engagement, enabling these experiences to effect a transformation in every student, right? So you are designing to make a transformation, and to make the transformation, you have to impact every aspect of the classroom. Decor, ambience, the way you speak to them, the assessment that you do, the activities that you do, everything is designed on empathetically understanding what your student's specific need is. And then you have a transformation with every student in your class. Okay, so now I think my half hour is up. I hope I have given you enough, or rather, I have influenced you enough for you to reach out for that hat, which is say now that you are a designer of the classroom. Okay, so with that, I throw the floor open for any kind of questions that you may have. Priya, is it a format that they write the questions on the chat box and I take the question? Is that how we're going to go about it?
Ma'am, participants can unmute themselves and
oh, great, lovely, lovely. That would be perfect. If I may be a typical teacher, unmute, put on your camera, and then talk to me. I'd like to see your faces too. Okay, so do you have any kind of questions, or do you have anything that you'd like to add on? I'm sure I've not covered every aspect of design thinking in a classroom. So if there's anything that you'd like to add on, please feel free. Thank you very much, some of you who's putting down your comments there. I'm waiting for questions. I think I enjoy the question sessions more than I enjoy the delivery aspect. Something is wrong. If I've got no question, then something is wrong.
we have a lot of beautiful comments coming in, ma'am.
Yes.
Examples were very informative. Every child is unique.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Tendril from Chennai.
Yes, Tendril.
My question is a generic question. So when we sit to attend such sessions, it's really interesting, and we note down all the keys that we get from the thing. Okay, I can do this. I can try this out on my child. So what happens is, but in the process of completing the portions, we tend to fall back to the old system of giving the test and then entering the mark register. So the teacher's energy is mostly drawn to that. I'm talking about a general education system.
I understand.
What happens is we lack that integrating these things in the thing because of the syllabus or the extra work that the teacher has to do in terms of so your energy has gone into that rather than applying this. Though they have that interest, at the back of that there's an anxiety like if I do all this and then I'll not be. So I always see that the teacher has a certain amount of admin kind of work more, so her energy is drawn there. So how will you?
So, Tendril, let me just ask you a couple of questions. What grades and what subject do you teach?
3, 4, 5 math.
3, 4, 5 math. Fantastic. So, you know, there is no governing body which decides if your syllabus has to be completed or not, except your own school. Okay? The principal of the school, I'm not sure if the management is really engaged, but the principal of the school. I believe that, and so 3, 4, 5, the concepts are more or less related, isn't it? I don't know if it's right, and I'm not sure if your seniors are on this forum, but I'm hoping they are, that will make your life easier. If you could propose to them that, you know, the topics are progressive. Okay, so what I teach in 3rd standard, you know, occurs in 4th and in 5th. Can we turn a lot of what you do in 4th standard to not being a teaching class? You don't need to teach every topic. Like I told you, I'm not very great at math, but you know, if I can take a very simple example, and I'm doing it with math, and just being brave and doing it in math, I should say, if a child already knows single-digit addition, okay, we have taught them the carryover concept. Once you know the carryover concept, 2-digit addition is already, the child knows it. Why are we teaching them 3-digit addition? We don't need to teach it. Allow the child to explore it. And if they're doing it in groups, the way they do it, the process would be far better. It is time, it's consuming, possibly, but soon, you know, the whole makeup of the child becomes that the teacher is not teaching me everything. The teacher is facilitating my own learning. So what you will probably talk to your head of department or so is that I choose to not teach this topic. I choose to do it as a flipped class. My children are going to be learning on their own. Okay, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to, you know, come and explain it to each other. I understand documentation is very difficult. It's not like, I remember from 10 years back, people used to come from the corporate sector to join the teaching fraternity, saying, we want shorter working hours. Today, in a house full of people in the corporate sector, I seem to be working 18 to 20 hours a day, while they work exactly 6 hours a day. Our work is not easy. I think the minute we start understanding that we are doing far more than what any profession can do. Maybe not a doctor, because with the pandemic, the doctors have extra work, but you know, they have work hours and they switch off when they come out of that work hours. But ours is not like that. Even when you lie down at night, you're constantly wondering about child, say Sunita, needed that kind of help. What is it that I can do for her? So the minute we accept that about ourselves, that our work is not going to stop, it's going to be continuous and all the time, then of course, it becomes a lot easier for us to manage it. But when you're in the classroom, the administrative portion should not become part of your life. If we can create a structure for, this is a time that I work on my academic work, and this is the time I create for my administrative work. That is all the documentation, putting things together. It's very critical too, because unless you have the data there of your child's progress, of your child's process of progress, okay, you're not going to be able to design the child's next lesson plan. It's very critical. So there's no escape from that, Tendril. I'm sorry about that. I'm not being very helpful, I know, but what you can do is, you know, omit topics which are repetitive, unnecessarily repetitive, or merge them with something else. Like I said, when I was talking about that particular activity in English, of, you know, the writing activity, we rolled in quantity, math, the math topic, and the countable, uncountable. So we merged a lot of topics together, which means we merged those periods together too. The math teacher had got that period off now, right? She's got time to do something more. So that is the kind of planning. It requires a lot of thinking and, you know, planning. I would prefer that every single day teachers sit together while they plan the next day. Then these kind of things can be sorted out. You know, you can barter your period. Okay, I'm doing the English portion with your math topic, so you are free, but the next class, next section, you will do the same topic, and I am free, so that I have time to sit and reflect upon what I'm doing. Okay, I do try it out, Tendril. I'm sure it's going to help you a bit. The kind of collaboration that you have, design thinking is all about collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Tendril. there anything else that anybody has for me?
Shanti ma'am, I have posted a question.
Okay, the child keeps asking the answer for a question that's related to something. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. The child keeps asking a question that's related to something which would be discussed later in the class. 20th question, when the second question is being explained, how do you do justice to a child? Okay, which is very typical, right? While you are talking about one thing, children typically think of a thing that is 5 points away. Why would they do that? Have you thought of why they do that? It is surely their curiosity. Okay, it's not because they don't want to be attentive at this point of time. It's because they are curious. They want to go far ahead. It is a little irritating for you as a teacher, I know, when you are doing question 1 or you're doing one part of the lesson and your child is already talking about the 5th part of the lesson, right? But what you can do is tell him that when I'm coming to that, you're going to help me do the teaching. So it keeps the child's motivation up. Hold on. I'm still in point 2. We are coming to the 20th point. So when I come to 20th point, you are the one who's going to explain to the class. All right? You're going to be my partner in that. So can we go a little slow? For now, you go with us along the whole thing. I think that will keep the child engaged. But that can never be brushed aside as a child's inability to focus on what is happening. It's the child's curiosity to know more than what is available there. The minute we look at it from a perspective of a student, the whole attitude to the child's jumping guns will be, can be accommodated. Have I answered that, Anna?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Good morning, Shanti ma'am. This is Priya Amit here.
Hi, Priya.
How are you doing, ma'am?
Very well. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. I had this question. Sorry, I'm not able to turn on my camera, but I had this question. So as an English teacher, we have a whole lot of new words which is added to the child's dictionary right from grade 1 to grade 10. But then despite of all the efforts of, help encouraging them to use these words and to introducing varied activities, maybe it's dictionary or maybe it's looking for these words in their own storybooks and novels, somehow I struggle to make their passive dictionary into, passive vocabulary into active vocabulary. So, I would like you to share some insight there. How is it possible to get at least maximum children to, get onto this active vocabulary thing?
So Priya, why does a child's vocabulary have to increase? For him to be able to express his thoughts better? Isn't
Absolutely.
that the reason, right?
Yeah, to improve his language and, to get to know that there are other words too that he can use, instead of what he already knows. So they somehow go back to their comfort zone. They don't want to step out of that comfort zone.
True.
So how can I drag them out of that and make them...
is it the child's need? Priya, is it the child's need? It's your need, right? Yeah, to drag him out of the comfort zone?
No, not really. So as you see, as they progress, maybe they should know that there are many other words which they can learn in a language, just sticking to as simple as, when we have an annual day sessions, we say, okay, let us go outside and practice. So there was a time when I came into the class and said, it's time for rehearsal. And they all were like, they didn't know what it meant except for a couple of children. So, those little things, just an alternative for them to understand that, yes, my language is going to be better if I'm also going to know these words. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm coming back to the point, Priya.
Yeah.
The fact that you use the word practice and you use the word rehearsal is your need to use that language. For a child, he's able to understand what practice, and he knows that when man uses the word rehearsal, it means practice too.
Yeah.
But he feels the need to use it as of now. If you look back at the situation objectively, at your own lives objectively, you will realize that on a daily basis, even as adults, your vocabulary increases every single day. Your learning in any space increases every single day. But if you look back to 2 years back, I didn't know this particular word. I didn't know the meaning of a so and so term. I didn't know what this concept means, right? Because it didn't have meaning for me at that point. That's why it was not part of me.
Okay.
If we can just understand that about a child. So as an educator, it's our duty to give them those experiences, to present all the learning opportunities for them. But a child will only imbibe as much as what they need, their
All right.
interests or their motivations. And we really cannot get frustrated by that. Some children, now the same child who doesn't believe that he needs to use the word rehearsal and prefers to use just the word practice, may have some other talent, a subject in which he's far more talented. He may be brilliant at math, and his interest is there. So let's allow them. When the time comes and he knows that he has to increase his vocabulary, he needs to use better words so that his expression, his verbal expression is far better. It will come back to him. But you are continuing to give them those experiences. You're continuing to immerse them in everything that's possible. You're doing your job, right?
So we expose them and leave
We
them.
expose
And
them,
it's,
yes.
yes.
Now that particular child's interest, need, motivation is not the same as the 25 others in your class.
Yes,
You allow
true.
them to pay. So your like Tendril asked, the documentation will very clearly say that child XYZ doesn't move in pace with my class in terms of vocabulary acquisition.
Okay.
Okay. You're constantly thinking of what else can I do to help him improve it. Of course, you're going to be doing that, but you don't need to expect him to be on pace with somebody else.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Good morning, ma'am. This is Agnes.
Good morning, Agnes.
Yes, ma'am. This session is very, very quiet, coinciding with my condition. I'm the principal of a budding school, which has a heterogenic combination of children joining in our school, ma'am. And most of them are young first generation learners also. In this, we have got a parent who is not having children at all, and they have adopted siblings. They are from extreme north, and they know only Hindi, ma'am.
Okay.
They know only Hindi. And
Okay.
the parents' aspirations, yes, they have put them in English medium in Tamil Nadu. Yes, they cannot go for any other this one. And the child is finding it very, very difficult to cope up with the medium. And my teachers are also fighting a lot. More than that, the child is fighting a lot. That is my concern, ma'am.
Okay. So how old is the child?
7. One is 7 years. The elder one is 7 years, and the younger one is 5 years old, ma'am.
Oh, you have a long way to go with them. Don't worry, Agnes.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Maybe what you can do is, I know in Tamil Nadu, Tamil is compulsory, just like Kannada is compulsory in Karnataka.
Yeah.
That will definitely be tough on the child because coming
I'm not working on Tamil for the child at all.
Absolutely.
No.
Perfect.
English only.
English
and
only.
Hindi. Yes.
Yes. So, these two particular children possibly need special individualized classes.
Okay.
Okay. So, and do it completely in a playway method, where it's all fun and games, and so it'll be. So use their ability as the starting point. So you tell them that you know Hindi, I know English. So you teach me English, Hindi, and I teach you English.
Same I do. I ask them to
fantastic.
give. I ask them to question me, and then I tell them you have to find out whether I'm correct or not.
Correct.
Like
Absolutely. Fantastic. You don't need to worry because you have plenty of time to get them around.
Okay.
So we are not elitist, but then we do need them to learn English because English is the language that is used globally, and they have to. The whole idea is they've got the opportunity to be on par with everybody else in the world.
Yes.
So we have to get them to learn the subject, but give them time. I don't think you should get too worried. Use a lot of storytelling, use a lot of puppet shows for them, and it'll have to be a personalized thing. Get them buddies. Children learn a lot from each other. Get them buddies. Who will play games with them using, and get the buddies on your end so that they know how to interact with both these children. By and by, I assure you they will be fine. I'll just give you a background of, we have multiple campuses. My second large campus, which is in Bangalore itself, at Gunjur. When we started that, the set of students that we had were largely possibly first generation learners. So we have a lot of children who were comfortable in Kannada but were not comfortable in English. So I remember our highest class, and I started with a bang. I decided I'm not starting, starting my grade 1 and stepping it up year after year. I just started straight up to grade 7. So 7th standard children were finding it difficult to read. The English teacher was a young, sprightly girl, but she just threw her hands up, came running to my office, said, I can't do this. They're not able to read the lesson in my first chapter of the English textbook. So what I did is, the next day I brought Harry Potter into the school and from my home, and I told her that, why don't we try this? So she just told them that, okay, today they're throwing our textbook out. We're reading I'm reading the story to you. So when we started, the first chapter is very engrossing in Harry Potter. So they listened to it as a story. When it came to the next chapter, she said, okay, can we try and read it ourselves? It was an uphill task, So this was in June. I made this change, and you won't believe it. By the end of the year, the whole group had read every book in the Harry Potter series.
All the values,
right? And that got me into the same thing that I pulled off textbooks in English across grades. We don't have textbooks for English in Dean's Academy right up to 7th standard. We have novels. Because I believe that we have to connect the child for them to learn the subject. I try to do it with Hindi, but I'm not the best at Hindi, so I don't know which kind of books to pick up. So I personally read the book before I actually install it in the classroom. So children really enjoy it. It's tough. We do, some of the books are slightly higher level than the class requires, but we're pushing their bar up. So don't ever lose hope on that. You're very early into intervention with these two children. I'm sure they'll do you proud later. You have lots of time ahead of you, Agnes. I'm sure you would do well with them.
Thank you, ma'am. And as a school head, I am directly handling those two children, and parents are very soon moving to US. That's why they are very particular in making children feel comfortable with English. And while I play the story video, everything, the elder one is exactly, though he doesn't understand what the conversation is, he's exactly feeling the same emotions and expressions and everything he's sharing. Very good. But the parents' aspiration, they are quite haste. They want to get everything done within a minute's time. And I have told them, please, we have to wait. We have to give him his space. Time and like that. That's what I thought. While you're sharing all these things, I would get a little more ideas. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I guess I'm running out of time, Priya.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So if anybody has any further questions, if you don't mind, can I put my email ID on the chat box? Do feel free to write to me. I'm more than happy to help. I think I'm done with a lot of help with Dean's Academy. They really don't need me too much now. I have competent people who handle life there, so I am free to help people, anyone else. Right. So thank you very much, participants. It was my pleasure to be talking to you all. I'm sure there's some takeaway that you may have. At least give it a thought. Think of yourself as not just a teacher anymore. You're designing lives by designing experiences for every one of them. Make the difference in your classroom and see the enjoyment that you yourself will have as a teacher. Thank you very much. And thank you, Teachathon, Priya, Sumati, and everybody else on the team for having given me this opportunity. Have a good day, everybody.
Sorry, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, participants. As ma'am said, if you all have any queries, her email ID is mentioned. So please do reach out to her. And I'm sure ma'am would always be there for you with whatever questions you have. And listening to your thoughts, ma'am, it was music to ears. Thank you so much once again. We have Q-Shala team with us who would take us through quizzes and other interesting things because they are pioneered in doing so. Over to you, Q-Shala team.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, everyone. A very good morning to all of you.
I've had a good time listening to the beautiful talks on design thinking, and let's go ahead with a couple of questions. I'll be letting you know about what do we do and what are we all about, but let's just go ahead with a question. Some preliminary checks. You all are on mute by default, and if I ask you to share your answers, please feel free to unmute yourself. We will be asking you a question, and you have to type your answers on chat box. And after which, in case if you are asked to unmute and reveal the answer, you may have a chance to win exciting prizes as well. So here's your question on your screen. Artificial intelligence is going to serve as an invaluable tool in learning in the classroom as well as at home. Smart devices are all the rage, allowing students to have easy interactive access with all the information on the internet. Today, there are even celebrity voices that can be applied to make the learning even more relatable to a wider audience. Now, which angry young man's voice is being used here is my question. Please feel free to respond on the chat box. And here's the voice for you. I hope I'm sharing the sound. Let me share it again in order to make sure that I'm sharing the sound as well. Here's your screen and here's the sound for you all. Kind of an easy one.
गरजते बादल और कड़कती बिजली. Right now in Bengaluru, it is 19 degrees centigrade with heavy rains and thunderstorms. How's that? Is that right? Is it okay?
Yes, of course. I have a lot of answers.
तो बताइए, फोटोग्राफर का मनपसंद गाना क्या होगा? Zoom बराबर zoom.
And that's what AI can do.
समय निकल गया, ट्रेन निकल गई थी 1973 में.
So asking about the question, I have seen my chat box is full of answers, which says, all right, probably I will ask someone to unmute and asking the first one to respond on the question. Annam Subramanian, if I can request you to please unmute yourself.
I think it's Amitabh Bachchan.
Hello, ma'am. Yes, you are absolutely right. Okay, what made you think it's Amitabh Bachchan? Of course, the voice, right?
That's a very familiar voice because, you know, he comes in a lot of commercials. So even if we cannot relate, me being a South Indian, I am not very familiar with all the Hindi actors' voices, but I keep hearing this voice. So it was easy to connect. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for answering and being a sport. Along with that, I have so many other answers. Thank you so much for responding. Ma'am, I also request you to please send in your phone number so that we can reach out to you and process your exciting prizes as well. So coming over to you, you can take part in Kushala family quizzes and stand again a chance to win exciting Alexa as well. And talking about who we are Kushala. We are curiosity platform and have sparked curiosity in more than 1 lakh children in India. We have partnered with more than 100 schools, and we have designed and delivered curiosity events for more than 1,000 schools in India, basically through our exciting family quizzes. These are a few snippets of how we perform with kids all across India. We also have eminent speakers as our guest quiz masters. Recently, we had Sam Petroda, who is founder of Indian telecom industry. We also had Harish Bhatt, who is brand custodian of Tata & Sons, and eminent authors, as you can see on screen, ranging from Shubhas Tharu Srinivasan, from Piyush Avir, Vrinda Bansure, and Savi Khanal. Recently, we also had Rohini Nilekani ma'am, who is also founder of Arakyam Foundation. And this week, we are having Ms. Kairunisa, who is Indian author of children's fiction. We have also partnered with Sesame Street, and the next coming week will also be presenting Elmo to all our lovely kids. Talking about one important and recent feature that we have added to Kushala, which is our Kushala Curiosity Widget, which is a weekly engagement tool for students and teachers, and it's completely free. It's a very new feature, and right now we are delivering completely free of cost to all the schools across India. It's a feature which has quizzes and content which gets updated on weekly basis on school's website. The participants can stand a chance again to win on weekly basis by attempting the set of questions. We also provide a weekly journal to the students and to the schools, which has a list of comprising of all the answers about the quiz that they have attempted. We also provide a monthly report to the school along with the same. So if you want to access all these interesting features that you get to access currently free of cost for Kushala, please reach out to your schools as well. Why the widget? For now, since it's new, we have partnered with more than 50 schools in India, and more than 20,000 students are participating on our Curiosity widget, where they stand a chance to win more than 60 prizes. We have had more than 16 winners as of now, with the prizes of worth rupees 25,000 each. And don't take it from us. This is the testimonial that we have had from Seema Jairath ma'am, who is principal of DLF Public School. She says Kushala Curiosity Widget is an interesting concept where our children are finding it extremely engaging. The learning journal is extremely robust and challenges every learner and invokes curiosity amongst them through the different facets to create social and journal awareness. Of course, the curriculum and the questions cover all different aspects of topic. And here's the other question for you, because Kushala is all about questions. So the question says, Nandan Lal Bose's famous illustrations, which represent styles from the different civilizations of the subcontinent, ranging from the prehistoric Mohenjo-daro in Indus Valley to the present, have been immortalized in which famous document that came into effect on January 26, 1950? Which document are we talking about, with features greatest art illustrations by Nandan Lal Bose? The document came live on January 26, 1950. Beautiful prehistoric demonstrations ranging from Mohenjo-daro to Indus Valley. Which document are we talking about? I am again waiting for the answers on chat box. Please feel free to give your, let your doubts be there on chat box as well. You never know how your quirkiest answers can turn out to be the correct one. I've got a couple of responses as well. The big clue lies in the date, which is 26 January 1950. Give it a shot, irrespective of whether it's correct or wrong. And I've got a lot of answers again. May I request the first one to respond, who is Janani Manu ma'am, to please come off mute and share what do you think the answer is. Ma'am, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I was just trying to unmute myself.
Hello,
the answer.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
this is Shailaja Bandari. This great personality designed the border of our Indian Constitution preamble.
Thank you. Thank you so much for adding a clue to the question as well, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Again, I can see a lot of answers coming in, probably because of the additional clue that you have given us. Over to you, ma'am. Janani ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, the answer is the Indian Constitution.
And what
if you're going to ask me how I know it, I'm a social teacher.
Oh, okay. You are absolutely right, ma'am. Congratulations. Please feel free to add your phone as well so that we may reach out to you. And you're absolutely right. It's the pages of Indian Constitution. That's how they have been featured, and lovely to have you responding. Thank you everyone for your responses.